Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today we are going to be doing a rundown of Tinto Talks number 80, which is detailing some Golden Age of Piracy mechanics and a little Ice Age for the upcoming game with the codename Project Caesar. We are going to be going through it. We have not played as a pirate nation, so I don't necessarily have as many insights to offer into that. We've had access to the game for some time now. We have a few hundred hours, but we have heard other content creators talk about the little Ice Age. It's a bit of a brutal situation. It is pretty interesting, so we're going to be talking through this, and we are going to be off and on our way. So with that said, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another Tinto Talks, the Happy Wednesday, where we refuse to capitalize happy even though it's a holiday, as it should be capitalized, where we talk about Europa Universalis 5. Today we will be talking about two more situations that may happen in the mid-game, the Golden Age of Piracy and the Little Ice Age. To be fair, we've spawned the Golden Age of Piracy, but we just didn't really pay that close attention to it or really see what was going on, so we spawned it once. We've never spawned the Little Ice Age. But let's continue without further ado. Man, this guy just completely copy-pasted Pavia's... This is Pavia's format. What are we doing here, Roger? Pavia's, of course, on vacation, and by on vacation, I mean they threw him in the trunk with Johan. Although there have been pirates, exclaim, at sea, with this situation we aim to portray the Golden Age, especially the Caribbean Sea, or Caribbean, which one is it, who knows, around the second half of the 17th century. As such, the situation may trigger at the start of the Age of Absolutism, which, and may be active for as long as 50 years. We have the Golden Age of Piracy spawning, got a nice little art here, and the seas churn with the chaos of shifting powers, crumbling trade monopolies, and relentless ambition. As the powers of Europe wage endless war for dominance, womp womp, their merchant fleets grow fat and complacent, easy prey for men with bold, or for bold men with sharp cutlasses and swifter ships. In the furthest corners of the colonial outposts are lawless harbors. A new breed of seafarer emerges, castaways, privateers, deserters, and dreamers, drawn by fortunes and freedom, now gather underneath these black flags. These outlaws turn to piracy, not just for plunder, but for purpose. Gotta represent. From the humid coves of the Caribbean to the stormy waters of Africa, comma. Okay, so we obviously don't have the rest of that. We have the Golden Age of Piracy as our situation, and we have a couple of hints here. Now, the hints here, this is something that is relatively new, and I think is a fantastic thing in terms of how they are helping the player who, basically the new player. There's hints for a whole bunch of stuff. You could get some additional context. You could also lower the volume slightly on your music. And so we have a little bit of flavor text and some hints as to what to do or how to handle the situation. The Golden Age of Piracy is a situation that may give rise to new pirates. Free men, disgruntled sailors, and those who defy centralized authority empower the black sails under which they now conduct their illicit activities. Consider eradicating any pirates near our coasts. We cannot afford to have them roam our seas. Oh, you know what? We have engaged with this. We created a pirate. We just conveniently forgot our own barbarism. Yeah, we created a pirate nation. I remember now. It is a unlanded little country that attacks our enemies and wreaks havoc on them with our sponsorship. Each event associated with the situation may herald the rise of a new pirate republic. So we spawned a pirate republic. A little bit of an extra hint here. We will be able to utilize new actions in the situation, whether we sail the black flag or not. Recommended actions as a pirate, you want to say yar and ask, you know, what do you call a big booty pirate? And the answer is, of course, thick with 7 seas. It is wise to secure the coast and build the mighty navy by utilizing actions such as attract sailors or migrate to new waters. We can maintain a versatile fleet and presence. So we will have the Golden Age of Piracy. I think what the way that the situation works, if I recall correctly, is when you spawn a pirate nation, you are given the option to play as them, if I recall correctly. And we did spawn one, not in the Caribbean, we spawned it off the coast of Morocco, or in a location in Morocco, but it's a they do not own locations. It is a it is a building-based country or a navy-based country. I think it's a navy-based country. So we will have the situation panel here, which has less than one navy-based country will cause the requirements to brick, and the Golden Age, as long as the Golden Age of Piracy has been active for 30 years, or if it's been active 50 years. So it is a little bit of Golden Age, but once you spawn some of these, even if you go past 50 years, I do believe that the subjects slash pirate nations that have spawned will stay kicking around. I don't think we played long enough to really find out, though. At the top bar, you will see that you have a shortcut to change your piracy law. You do have, this is actually a law that's kind of annoying in the UI because, like, the one straightforward action, like the anti-piracy one, just increases your naval maintenance. And so you basically have the entire game with you have an available law thing in the UI, in the top bar. When you don't want to put this in because you don't want to increase naval maintenance, I don't think it's worth it. And so you kind of just sit on the notification, which is a little bit annoying because... I think all the options are bad if you're not actively combating piracy, and so it's better to just not pass a law. But while at the top right, you have the action to send privateers. There are multiple ways to be able to unlock and hire privateers prior to the situation. 2 generic advances from the Age of Renaissance and the Age of Reformation, 3 unique advances for Maghrebi countries during the Age of Traditions, Novgorod during the Renaissance, and the Frisian countries in the Age of Discovery. 2 policies in the piracy law, the state policy, the generic one, and the Sea Beggars unique one available to the Netherlands. We didn't even activate that when we played as the Netherlands. That's very interesting. Okay. But some of these will allow for piracy, some won't. And we didn't really take that close a look at it. The Galley Lords Reform, available to countries in the Celtic culture group, and the Pirate Brethren Reform, available to those who are brothers of the pirates, which is the default major reform for pirate countries. We will have privateers. This allows us to send privateers against our enemies. As we can see here, pirates are the boat-based attackers, which is phonetically fun to say, boat-based, of other ships or coastal areas who steal goods and ducats. So that's buckets of ducats. Let's now move into the situation actions. You can follow 2 different courses of action: sponsoring pirates, which is what we did, and combating them. The latter is the boring one, requesting other countries to cease their pirating. Yo ho ho. Put an end to that. Yar. That type of rhetoric here, we do not abide, and instead we will sponsor some piracy. So, this is the less boring one, or this is, I believe we're asking them to stop. A strong front against piracy. Looks like it costs us a little bit of prestige, and then you can also create a subject pirate nation, which we have done. We just didn't really engage with the mechanics that much, but it'll cost a little bit of ducats, and through the writing of letters of marque and granting of a location, one of our fleets, and some starting gold to entice the first crew members, we will ensure the creation of a den of pirates and cutthroats that will surely make life much more difficult to the merchant navies of our enemies, while leaving ours pass through. And so we will be able to select the location, spawn them, and they will be in that location, but still be a naval-based country. They are a nation of pirates. After the issue of new letters of marque by Castile, a great group of brigands, man, here with the alliterations today, and cutthroats have gathered around the despicable figure of Captain Esteban Colón de Portugal in Bilbao. It is known by all that follow him that his intent is to create a pirate nation that terrorizes the seas, and most importantly, makes all of them filthy rich. We do like that. Which of course opens up the action to continue playing as the newly established pirate nation. This is an entirely different type of country, and something we haven't really talked about: a naval-based country. That has nothing to do with belly buttons, but instead sailing the seas. With its unique reforms, succession law, etc., we will have pirate brethren can hire privateers, navy maintenance minus 33%. That's kind of nice, especially if there are other sources of this. We don't really know the tech tree all that well as it relates to Navy maintenance reduction. I'm assuming there's going to be a couple modifiers kicking around somewhere. Possible government reforms +1, so that's a freebie. If it's free, it's for me. And monthly progress towards naval. Incidentally, monthly progress towards naval is a little bit rough to be able to achieve. And generally speaking, this is something that we lament when we are trying to go naval and you build up a relatively large army and you drill that army. What will happen is, by virtue of drilling the army and gaining so much army tradition, you usually start to progress yourself towards the land. And so there's a little bit of tension where you probably don't want to drill an army as much unless you have government reforms that are pushing you towards naval if you want to move towards naval. And so there's a little bit of tension here where countries like Great Britain maybe suffer a little bit by virtue of not being able to drill their armies, or if they do, they'll progress towards land, which is something they don't want because they want to maximize their naval value. We will have the succession law of pirate elective. It's an interesting one. It's a succession law of a pirate republic in which the ruler chooses amongst one or more candidates by the crews. Did they use elective Okay. Decided by by election. Rules for life. Allows male. Allows female. Swabs poop decks. Allows estates, nobility, burghers, commoners, and crown. And we will have scoring that is based on merit. And this is an interesting thing as it relates to some of the voting systems. Is they will give you better characters. Just generally speaking, if these are the parameters that get pushed, as long as they're an admiral, you're basically going to get the one with the most aggregate stats. Incidentally, there is also a government reform that gives you, like, an admirally elected, ruler, which is kind of an interesting one. I don't know if it's a republic, but it is elective, and so what you will have is, as long as someone's, you will basically have a thing that looks a lot like this in terms of who gets elected. We haven't messed with it too much, because we figured that it probably bricks flavor and events and this type of stuff, but if you wanted to get progress towards naval, it is a good government reform that makes a bit of sense, and is maybe one you want to use with England. Something like this, but I think you brick your monarchy if you do it, which, is not ideal. We also can abandon piracy. We're not going to read through that because we would never do that. We can attract sailors by showing off our wealth in the neighboring port taverns and promising better treatment and pay. We can easily attract many disgruntled sailors and ranks. Though they may not be the most experienced or professional sailors, their quality, but their quantity is a quality of its own. I get a little bit of naval tradition. Incidentally, if you have a lot of navy tradition, this does also push you towards naval in terms of the societal values. We will get migrate to new waters. Maybe it's a little bit more lucrative to raid in the Caribbean as opposed to off the coast of Morocco, where we spawned our pirates. It looks like this will cause a little bit of some resources here. And there are also historical events to spawn 6 different historical pirate nations. New Providence, Libertalia, Salé, Teotihuacan, Port Royal, and Tortuga, which you can obviously play as with if they spawn with your country. We get the Brethren off the coast, and we will have a little bit of a flavor post for the Tortuga pirates here. I think that we might see a couple of these. It's a little island that is north of the Cuba, if I recall correctly. Looks like we have a little bit of a building, a pirate stronghold, 20 gold per month. And that's not tax. I think that's just straight income. So that, in terms of relative to, like, tax base, that might be worth an equivalent of, like, 100 tax base. So that's worth a lot of buildings worth of stuff. So that's very interesting. Maritime presence of +1, which is quite a lot, and a bit of monthly sailors. The Great Age of Pirates, not the Golden Age. At the end of the situation, a variable will calculate if the pirates won it, with a reward for the king of the pirates, or lost it. The so-called Golden Age of Piracy was supposed to burn itself out, a flash of rebellion and greed, destined to collapse under the weight of its own chaos. However, the fires of this wretched movement still burn bright across the ports of the Kana of Langsuka. I swear they use the harder to pronounce stuff intentionally. For decades, I shouldn't say that out loud because then they might actually start when I'm just like trying to throw shade at the developers for something that they're probably not doing intentionally, and that they... Never mind. For decades, they consolidated their power under Awang Panji Anugrah and his predecessors, reaching to the top of the pyramid of greed, thriving in their loot accumulated from their many voyages. Their ships are faster, their sailors hardened, certainly were hard, and their captains are bolder than ever. Trade convoys reroute in fear, coastal settlements reinforce their walls, and the navies of the world brace for more blood. These guys have prevailed. Okay, so what we get is we get Great Pirate State as a modifier. Wow. This is quite interesting. We don't see too many permanent modifiers as rewards for things. And so, by the looks of it, this is also pretty strong. Monthly Republican tradition, monthly Navy tradition, and Navy morale plus 15%. I think that they're just not very concerned with giving modifiers to things that are just going to be weak in the abstract. Playing as a pirate nation is probably going to be weak, so a little bit of an interesting thing. And then we have the end of the Golden Age of Piracy for if the pirates lose, which of course they won't, and then the situation just ends. A little bit of flavor text. Now we have the Little Ice Age. There's a lot of reasons to not play in the north, which is there's not a lot of pops there. It's a little bit rough, certainly as rough as our throat here. And this is another reason, because you can spike the Little Ice Age, which is really, really painful. A forward on the Little Ice Age before we start with it. We've already started, my guy. You see here, this is the title. That means this is starting. It's too late. Technically speaking, this climactic period, or climatic rather, not climactic, is considered to start somewhere around the 14th or 15th centuries, following the medieval climate optimum. What we have represented in the game is the Marauder Minimum, a very cold period that started around 1650 and lasted for some decades, differently depending on region. We considered that this would fit well with our game, so the LIA is a global situation that, happening during the Age of Absolutism from 1645 to 1715. The recent years have hosted a series. I think most of our deep runs haven't been that far north, which is why we haven't experienced this as much ourselves directly. The recent years have hosted a series of winters for harsher than usual crop failures, starvation, and encroaching cold have made the life of the Crown of Castile a challenge. Interesting that it's hitting that far south. In the midst of this, our farmers have begun noticing two of our deep runs. Maybe it wasn't implemented when we deep runned as the Netherlands, and then we've also done Vijayanagara and Mali, but I think that they just don't get affected by it. In the midst of this, our farmers have begun noticing lesser returns from our harvest, and granaries run dangerously low. The people will know not what sin has caused such divine wrath, but alas, we remain hopeful that the sun will return to its former glory. With a bit of prayer, soon we'll see some sun, and we have the Little Ice Age situation here. Winter is in fact coming. You just couldn't put Ned Stark there. Couldn't. We do see a little bit of a hint thing entry for our Little Ice Age here. And at this point, we check the side of our recording to make sure that our audio is working correctly, because we had some trouble on stream earlier today. But continuing on, the Little Ice Age is upon us. From the covers of the lands, we must do our best to protect crops, animals, and ensure the survival of our people, considering expanding buildings that produce or enhance the production of food. We are currently... Food has been buffed, and by buffed I mean the need for it has been nerfed, and now you run out of food a lot. So we are actually in the process of really being quite attentive towards food considerations in our Venice run where we're currently playing, and we're just layering a whole bunch of stuff in some really key provinces that have a bunch of food modifiers, and it's a bit interesting how many threads you can pull at to try and increase food a whole lot. We also gain access to unique actions to help bolster and redistribute our food across provinces. But just to give a bit of an example, we are stacking irrigation, which gives max population capacity and location, and it gives 5% food output. And this scales, like most buildings, with the amount of pop you have. I'm not sure if it scales with urbanization, but currently we have a location where we are really developing it up for food, and I think it makes for a nice little story, and so it has wheat there. Wheat RGO is tied for second with the amount of food it produces per RGO with 8. One of the problems with a place like Russia is you don't have as many of the really good food RGOs like wheat. I think you have a lot of sturdy grains up there, which give you just 5 or something like this, and wool, which wool is very good, but it only gives you 5 food. So we have that in the location. The location's farmland, so it also gives you a percentage boost to food, and also, if a place is rural, it will not have any malices to producing food, but if you upgrade it to a town or you upgrade it to a city, it will get malices, and also, you'll have fewer levels of your RGOs, so you can't produce as much grain. So, in that way, by keeping it rural and building some of this irrigation, we're increasing the food production there. But also, we are building a rural building that has sheep, or produces sheep. And what this does is it has a bit of an input, I can't remember if it's tools or wood or what, and it outputs sheep. Now the sheep will get positively affected, because the sheep are being produced in that location, the wool is being produced in that location, they'll get positively affected by all the percentage modifiers for food that we are stacking or aiming to get by having it be farmland, building a bunch of irrigation, and not upgrading it to a town or city. So in this way, we're producing a whole ton of food out of a single location. So with food mattering more, we're now going to go more out of our way to select locations that are good for food, and then not upgrade those to towns, like we would normally. Normally, you just upgrade everything that's food-based to towns, or not normally, but with previous versions. And so this kind of strategy and this kind of thing that you're going to be approaching, or this way you're going to be dealing with things, is something you might do more of in order to help combat the Little Ice Age. If you are not getting enough food, your government, as part of their line expense, has to buy food. this is really expensive, and it can just absolutely rock you, just completely wreck you. So this is going to be a consideration, and this is going to be something to play about, and the Little Ice Age brings the pain for that. The start of the situation will add a harsh winter modifier to all locations impacted by it, which will reduce their food capacity and production. So you immediately get wrecked by the lack of capacity, because if you had stored food, now it's gone. And then here is a malus here, food production. And if you don't have a lot of modifiers already, a lot of positive modifiers, minus 25% is pretty nasty. But if you already have a lot of positive modifiers, that's not that big a deal. But this is a very mechanical situation in which managing your food is the key action to do to avoid losing valuable pops. And so, manage we do. Which, besides normal gameplay, you can also do from the situation panel. You can manage food, enforce rationing policies, expand provincial food production, send food aid. I'm guessing the expand opens up the RGO builder with some filters specifically for food. We have enforce rationing policies, which will give us this enforced rationing policy for 10 years here. Cost us a little bit of stab, decrease food consumption, and increase unrest. Interesting. Probably worth doing, I would guess. It seems strong enough, especially if you're running out of food. Running out of food is real bad. We have expand provincial food production, which is, it's not just going to open RGO. It is going to give us a benefit for 10 years where we will get food production plus 10%. So this is already a pretty strong offset towards this minus 15%. Something that is worth noting, though, is if you upgrade to a town, you get like minus 20%, and if you upgrade to city, you get minus 40% food capacity. If you already have negative food capacity, penalties like this are actually more painful, right? If you're already at 50% food capacity and you get minus 25%, because the modifiers are stacking additively, this is going to represent a diminishing relative to where you were before your food production by 50%, because of math. And so, continuing on here, we have the cold and wet fields. These are my least favorite type of fields. But besides the mechanical flavor of the situation, we will have narrative events happening as well. And so we will have some flavor text, some things going on, and we will say, such is the price we pay for life. We get another one, no blades left in the plain. The workings of a witch, my favorite. Shout out to witches. You know what they say, get witches. Witches get stitches. No, that's snitches. Until finally the situation ends, we will have the end of the Little Ice Age here. We look forward to warmer days little by little, and it will close out the Ice Age. And much more. That's just one much, because this is Pavia's formatting, which has been stolen from him. Pavia always says one much more, but because there's two M's, we think, alliteration, it must be much, much more, but it's only one much more. But that's all for today. Now I have a message from Pavia about the schedule for the next couple of weeks. Pavia, of course, being trapped in the trunk. They've said something about vacations in Spain, and as an American, I'm not buying any of it. There's way too many vacations, right? Terrible. People are just being thrown in trunks willy-nilly. But okay, here's Pavia's message. It's really a cry for help. Hi there. I have a bit of sad news. We will be skipping most forum posts for a couple of weeks, except Dev Diaries, which are handled by the community team, as we have bank holidays this Friday, and next week we will have to attend a Paradox staff conference. We have to attend. It sounds like something fun, so we have to. Aw, terrible. More vacations. But okay, in Stockholm, before anyone asks, we won't be an entire week there, but we want to use as many work days as possible on that week to focus on what's important for us now, polishing the game. You may have noticed, jokes about Johan being trapped in a trunk aside, you may have noticed Johan doesn't really do these Tinto talks anymore, and a big part of it is, pushing for the game's completion, and his attention is elsewhere, I am assuming. But yeah, we haven't had a Johan, we've had, I think, one Johan written Tinto talk in maybe the last 10 or 15, something like this. But let's continue on. And the following Monday, we have another bank holiday. See, all these holidays, I don't buy it. That you can't have that many holidays. This means we will be back to the regular schedule on Wednesday, the 24th. However, from there until the release of the game, we will have regular posts once again. This is how it will look then. So Thursday, the 11th, Dev Diary, Trade and Economy. That is tomorrow or today by now. It is now a happy happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. We will have the 18th Dev Diary Discovery, and Wednesday the 24th, Johan will be back to the Tinto Talks to talk about multiplayer, which the devs have been at hard work getting that to, polishing up the multiplayer and working and focusing on that. But as you can remember, you can pre-purchase Europa Universalis 5 now. If you are interested in supporting the channel, you can buy it from the Steam, or not the Steam website, the official Paradox website. Use code GENERALIST in all caps. This won't give you a discount, and it'll be slightly inconvenient, but we will get 12% of the sale. So if you wanted to support the channel, at the moment, this is an excellent way to do it. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this Tinto talk. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We started recording when it was a Wednesday. Now it is a Thursday. So rather than wishing you a happy Wednesday, I will wish you, as a form of adieu, not adieu, but a happy Thursday.